Oh, there we go. That's the right guy. Hello, how are you doing? All right. I was a bit. Well, we're 1 minute away. There is other. Well, I don't know if there's anybody else in here. Um,
Let me let me just pick up the presentation here. Pull up the presentation here. Just a second.
yeah, please do.
Okay. Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you and thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man. It's a pleasure. Okay, all right. Yeah, now I'm ready. Okay. All right. Okay.
Okay.
Let me see if I can
Do you
blur
want?
the background or no, I don't
No,
think
they don't
so.
have
Oh,
those
okay,
kind
okay,
of
okay.
options on
Yeah.
their platform, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would probably do the same thing for my
Yeah, no worries. It's
trash
all good.
can back there.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's working. If you have any videos or audio, you just need to click on the share audio and video when you first pull up that screen.
Oh no, 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 no
You're
audio.
good.
It's all good. Yeah. It's just
Okay,
this
well, break
presentation.
a leg. Yeah, break a leg. As you know from before, your session will be open as long as you feel necessary. And
Mhm.
yeah, have a great time. I will post about it in the event chat, so get more people in here as well. So,
Okay.
all right. And if you need
Awesome.
anything, message me. Uh,
Okay.
looks like we got.
Will do.
Hi everybody. This is Eli. Okay,
Hello, everyone.
break a leg.
Glad to be here. Thank you, James. All right, you guys. So let's get started. My name is Eli Santos, and I'm here to talk about metaverse advertising, or as I like to call it, Metavertising, which is also the name of my company. So let's get started. So I want to get started with this question, right? Do you guys recognize this iconic scene from the movie Blade Runner 2049? I know many of you have already seen the movie. Some of you may have not seen the movie, but there's this iconic scene where this giant purple lady, which is actually a hologram, kind of approaches our main character and taps into him. And then she approaches him and asks him, "Are you alone or are you feeling lonely?" or something in that sense. And I find that conversation to be really interesting. What follows up after that is really interesting. And I want to use that in order to open up the presentation, just to paint the picture a little bit in your minds there, which I think is extremely important for you to understand this topic fully, right? And the main reason why I brought this up in the first place is because that girl is actually an experienced ad. But the main problem is the modern marketer is still trapped into a pre-metaverse mindset. So as you guys can see in here, she was actually in this kind of billboard, this kind of 3D billboard, or maybe hologram type of billboard. And you can see there everything you want to hear, everything you want to see. That's kind of the promise of this product or maybe this billboard, right? And when the main character approaches this billboard, she comes out of the billboard and starts interacting with him, and has kind of like a very dynamic conversation with this guy. Has a very seamless, I would say, very organic conversation with him and interacts with him. And the main goal from this conversation is to make this guy purchase a product, which is kind of like this virtual girlfriend kind of that appears in the movie. And I think that's really interesting. I think this really paints the picture of what advertising is going to be in the next few years as we're entering Web3, as we're entering the metaverse. And I think it's really important for you guys to have this very clear view of where things are heading next. Okay. So here's how I believe, or maybe here's how most people believe the future is going to be, and here's how I see them. Right? I can't wait. You can see this little guy here putting the VR goggles. I can't wait to experience a whole new internet when the metaverse is finally here. And when they put the VR goggles, bam, blowout sale, 40% off. Buy now. Want more content? Subscribe. Our privacy policy has changed. Accept. We share data with third parties. Accept. And that's not really it, right? But that's how many people actually believe the metaverse is going to be, right? They think that they're going to put these VR goggles and they're going to get as many ads as possible. And they think that because now they're in this kind of immersive environment, it's going to be a lot easier to control what they see, and it's going to be a lot easier to show them just a bunch of ads. And that's not really it. That's like having a Ferrari but not using it ever. It just sits in your garage. So much wasted potential. And that may not have been the most clever analogy, but I think you get the gist, right? When you're in this immersive environment where you can enable people to have amazing experiences, why would you show them these pop-up ads? Or why would you show them just flat billboards, right? That's like having a Ferrari, but you're not using it, right? So I think that's the main mindset shift the marketers need to have as we're entering Web3, as we're entering the metaverse, because it's going to be extremely important that from now on, marketers get used to this new format that is completely different from everything that we've seen so far and everything that we're used to do and everything that we've done in the past, right? So it's a whole new experience, a whole new world, right? The future and the metaverse must be made of experiences. And then some of them just happen to be ads. Have you ever realized or have you ever been so caught up in a moment only to realize later that it was all by design? I think that's the main concept here. And that's the biggest mindset shift that needs to happen for marketers specifically, or maybe for founders and entrepreneurs that want to explore this new format, that this is a whole new world. This is a whole new thing. And everything that we know about marketing so far, obviously we're going to use a lot of the fundamentals, but nobody's used to this new format that is coming up now as we're entering the metaverse. And if we go into it with a mindset of creating experiences and creating stuff that really people love, that is amazing, we're going to have a lot more success than the ones that really just try to transport or maybe try to translate the stuff that they know from social media, for example, from social media apps into a 3D world, an immersive experience, right? There are no limits. If so, then why would you settle for flat billboards, right? And this scene from Ghost in the Shell is the perfect example, right? You can see these kind of giant holograms. These you can clearly see these are ads, right? And so these are a lot more immersive, a lot more interactive, and honestly, a lot more fun to look at than the stuff that we see nowadays, the stuff that we have nowadays, right? So there are no limits. So just don't settle for flat billboards. And I brought some data just to back up that idea. And I want you guys to understand why advertising will still be around in the near future. A lot of people think that advertising is not going to be here anymore as we're entering Web3, as we're entering the metaverse, because people don't like advertising and this and that, and they have several different arguments. But that's not really it, right? We're still going to have advertising in Web3. We're still going to have advertising in the metaverse. And there's a lot of data to back that up, okay? So here's the 2021 scenario of digital advertising. So Facebook and Instagram together, they've made, or Meta, right? They've made approximately $114 billion of revenue from ads in 2021 alone, right? Google and YouTube, which is, I guess I can also call it Alphabet, right? They've made 256 billion of revenue from ads together in 2021 alone. And then globally, it was estimated that the revenue invested in digital ads was around $455 billion. That also accounts for Snapchat, TikTok, Pinterest, and many of the other social medias that we know that you can advertise in, right? So imagine this almost $500 billion industry. Now that we're entering immersive realities, right? I also brought some data about the average return on investment that advertisers make based on investing into ads, right? So globally, the average is 1.06 ROI. In North America, sorry, the average is 1.24, and in Asia, the average is 1.32, right? So that's the average ROI that advertisers are getting right now from investing into ads. However, if you're an advertiser like me, if you have a strong background in advertising, you know that you can get a lot more from ads. Myself, I've had campaigns that gotten 6, 9, 12, even 20 of ROI investing into ads. So think about that for a second. Now that we're entering immersive reality, don't you think it's reasonable to assume that the results are going to be amplified as well, since the experience is going to be amplified, right? Also, I don't think I need to break it down to you guys because you're here at this event, but the metaverse is growing, right? So the global market size was estimated at, and that's for virtual reality and augmented reality alone, right, guys? So virtual reality, it was at 38.85 billion in 2021, expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 39.4 from 2022 to 2030. For augmented reality, it was estimated around 25 billion in 2022, expected to grow at 40.9% from 2022 to 2030. I guess it's really safe to say, especially about augmented reality, that augmented reality is going to make it's going to be a lot more used or a lot better in the short run because the technology is already here. We already have it in our phones, and we already have companies that can help you, or maybe products that can help you create augmented reality advertising, such as Eighth Wall by Niantic, for example. And so it's really important to watch this kind of data and really see where marketing is going, right? Because definitely as marketers, we're going to surf this new trend and use these new mediums in order to create amazing experiences, right? So think about it for a second. Let's just take a couple of steps back. If companies were able to make millions then, imagine how much will be possible to make now that companies can provide an entirely immersive experience instead of just a flat image in a social media app's timeline. So you can see this example here that is a real example of a BMW experience using an HTC Vive goggles of virtual reality of you getting to drive an actual BMW in virtual reality. Obviously, I would say this is like probably one of the first few iterations of this experience, but this is like uh, enabling anyone in the world to drive a BMW without actually having the BMW. So this allows you to have an amazing immersive experience without having the actual car, for example. Because after all, experiences evoke emotions. And emotions are the fire of human motivation, the combustible force that secretly drives most decisions to buy. When your marketing harnesses those forces correctly, you will generate explosive increases in response. That's not me saying, that's actually Gary Bencivenga, which is a legendary copywriter. This is actually a very basic and very fundamental concept of copywriting that was used by amazing and legendary copywriters 100 years ago when we saw the first iterations of copywriting in sales letters, in newspapers, in magazines, and billboards, and later on in radio and TV. So this is actually like a very fundamental concept of marketing in general, right? So transport this into an environment where you can actually control the entire experience. You can control a spectrum of emotions by creating amazing experiences. So think about that for a second. All right, so I've painted the picture of the future and gave you a glimpse of what the future is going to look like. But how exactly is that going to look like? Is it already happening? If you're thinking, Eli, please help me, I want to understand this. You don't have to worry because I'm here to help you out and I'm here to break it down to you what's already happening and what you should be worried about as we're entering the metaverse. There's actually a few examples of it already. There's actually some stuff happening in that sense, and I'm gonna show it to you guys. Gonna give you a few examples, and I'm also gonna give you a few directions about it. Okay. So first and foremost, I think it's important for us to define what a metaverse platform is. A lot of people talk about Fortnite and Roblox, for example, and then a lot of other people talk about Decentraland and the Sandbox, for example. Are these actually metaverse platforms per se? Or maybe are these like the first few iterations of what is going to be the metaverse? So it's important for us to understand these concepts. It's important also to understand that Fortnite and Roblox, for example, these are games. These are focused on the actual game, right? The gamified part of the experience. As in the Decentraland and the Sandbox, these are kind of like also like games, but they're more focused on the social aspects of things. So in essence, these two are a little different from each other, but they do have very strong social layers to it, right? Which is close to the concept of what we know a metaverse platform is. But I actually brought some information about that so we can really understand what technically is a metaverse platform. So there's no official definition of what a metaverse platform really is. So I came up with my own definition that I think is a good way to define what a metaverse platform is. And it's a good way to guide you guys through as we're entering the future and as more of these platforms are being created, right? So first and foremost, it should be blockchain enabled or built in blockchain because this is what is going to enable everything else that we're going to be talking about. Okay, it should be decentralized or have a trustless structure. Okay, so one of the main ethos or one of the main concepts of Web3 is the decentralization, right? Is allowing users to do whatever they want using your platform and creating their own experiences. I know this is a little hard to achieve. It's a little hard to decentralize. I wouldn't say power, but decentralizing control, because in this sense, you basically give too much freedom to the end user, and in some cases that may not be the most clever thing to do. One example that I like to look into is Reddit. I'm not sure if you guys know the social media Reddit, but in Reddit you can create your own forums, which they call subreddits, and you can create whatever topics you'd like to talk about as a forum. So what that means is if I like marketing, for example, I can create a subreddit which is called marketing. Or if I'd like to discuss marketing in Latin America, for example, I can create a subreddit that is focused on marketing discussions for Latin American people, right? So this is an example of like a somewhat decentralized structure. And then we have also trustless. Trustless is basically allowing people to do whatever they want without needing to have an external approval, and at the same time allowing users to have an environment where they can exchange information without needing to have external approval from a controlling platform, or maybe approval from each other in order to do business, right? Or maybe in order to exchange assets. So that would be an example of like what a trustless structure would be. So what I believe is going to happen is decentralization is a little hard to achieve because it's a little hard still to empower the user that much so they can do whatever they want with your product, right? But it's easier to have a trustless structure, and there's a lot of examples of that. And so I believe the metaverse platforms in the near future, and maybe even in the long run, they're going to be focusing a lot more on being a trustless structure rather than decentralized, right? Number three, crypto economy or tokenomics. So this is what enables what we're going to be talking later on, which is the creator economy, right? So if you have assets being sold within your platform, or if you have exchange of assets, and you want users to be able to sell stuff to each other or buy stuff from each other, or maybe creating their own things within the game and then selling to each other, or maybe selling to someone outside of the platform, they can just use potentially this platform's currency and take it out of the platform, or maybe even having a universal crypto language, as in Ethereum, for example, or maybe even Bitcoin, that everything that you do within the game is done via Bitcoin or done via Ethereum, and you can take that out of the platform, or maybe you can put it into the platform if you'd like as well, and you can exchange it with people, right? And you cannot do any of these things without a blockchain enabled structure, right? Interoperability is another thing that really a blockchain enabled structure allows you to do. It allows you to take assets from your game and take it to another game, for example, from one platform and take it to another. It allows you to exchange assets between platforms, right? And it allows you to just have the ownership of the stuff that you bought, that you acquired, or that you conquered in this platform, right? So it's really important to have interoperability, and it's hard to have interoperability if you don't have a blockchain enabled structure, right? NFTs, obviously, we've been talking a lot about NFTs now in Web3. It's essential to have NFTs because these are essentially digital assets, right? So if you have anything within the platform that you'd like to take it out, or maybe if you'd like to use within that platform, if you like to sell it to another person and just give the ownership of this asset to another person, that's going to be an NFT essentially, right? So it's important to have NFTs as well. Community, obviously, you cannot have an amazing platform without amazing people. And I think we already have amazing examples of that we can inspire from. Just look at YouTube, just look at Twitch, just look at Instagram. The reason why people go to YouTube, the reason why people go to these platforms, it's because there are other users there creating amazing content and creating an amazing, enabling an amazing community, right? So it's important to have a community as well. creator economy because you want to reward people for the time that they spend in these platforms. And I'm not talking about just, you being rewarded just because you exist within this platform. I'm talking about people that create amazing things within these platforms being rewarded just like YouTube does for their creators, right? As I said, the reason why people go into YouTube is because there's such amazing videos there, and then other people go there in order to consume these videos, right? So it's only fair for you to reward those users, right? So that's a creator economy. That's another thing that it's hard to achieve without a blockchain enabled structure. Obviously, it's not impossible, but if you have all of these assets or maybe all of these features in your platform, having a blockchain enabled structure makes everything a lot easier, right? And then last but not least, virtual reality and augmented reality, as we're talking about immersive experiences in 3D, then virtual reality and augmented reality are basically a must, right? Maybe not at this point because we do a lot of our stuff via browser, via mobile, but in the future, it definitely is going to become a must. So technically, we shouldn't consider Roblox or Fortnite as metaverse platforms. Rather, we should look into platforms like the Sandbox or maybe Decentraland. But out of these two sides, Roblox and Fortnite on one side, and then the Sandbox and Decentraland on the other side, who's really nailing the experience part, right? So for those of you who don't know Roblox or maybe don't know the Sandbox, Roblox and Fortnite are amazing games. They have millions and millions and millions of daily active users playing within these platforms literally every day, right? And then we have the Sandbox and the Decentraland, which are also relatively fun platforms that focus a lot more on the social aspects of things, but they don't have as many users, right? So when you measure these two things, who's really nailing the experience part? When you look at the Sandbox and the Decentraland, these are technically a lot closer to the concept of metaverse platforms, right? But when you look at Roblox and Fortnite, these aren't technically metaverse platforms, but people have a lot more fun in these platforms, right? So that's where people are going to be, right? So it's worth to doing this analysis when going into the metaverse as a marketer, as a founder, as an entrepreneur. So these games are not metaverse platforms, as I said, but they're the next best thing. If you look at Roblox, for example, they've developed Vans World. And Vans World is, from my perspective and based on the data that is available out there, the most successful metaverse experience created by a brand so far, right? So they've had, by now, if I'm not mistaken, 80 million accesses within Vans World. They're even more successful than Nike World, which was also created within Roblox, right? And they're actually making money off of Vans World as they're making money off of Nike Land, right? So if you look at Vans World, you can actually buy assets. You can buy, they call it Robux, right? Which is the currency that they use in order to for you to buy stuff within Vans World, right? So when you get into Roblox, you can buy this currency called Robux using real money, and then using Robux, you can buy items, right? And then they have these branded items within Vans World. So Vans is actually making money off of their platform on Roblox. Same thing goes for Nike Land, right? On Nike Land, you can actually buy stuff. So they're making money off of the experience they created there. However, Vans World is a lot more successful. It's the most successful experience that we have so far, and it's in Roblox, right? Same thing goes for Fortnite, for example. As you continue, right? We have Smart City, which is an experience created by Samsung. So there's already amazing experiences being created within these games, right? We also have some experiences being created in the other platforms I mentioned, such as the Sandbox and the Decentraland, but they're not as great. Users are not loving it as much as the ones that they're loving on Roblox and Fortnite. So I have brought some data here, just to clarify it. 21 million people have now visited Nike Land according to Roblox themselves, right? So Nike Land has amassed 7 million visitors in the first 2 months. You can buy virtual goods there using Robux, as I said, which is the paid Roblox currency. Nike Land was favorited by almost 118,000 gamers so far. Nike has commissioned LeBron James to visit Nike Land during the NBA All-Star Week. So that's an amazing experience in the making, right? So you can actually go in there right now yourself. You can download Roblox in your cell phone and just get in there and have these experiences, right? Other brands that are also there: Gucci, Tommy Hilfiger, Hyundai, Vans, and even Walmart, right? I mentioned Vans before, but anyway. So since metaverse advertising should be about the experiences, then the examples we're seeing are definitely a good fit for the first iterations of advertising in the metaverse. And this is an image of my character going around Walmart land in Roblox, right? And from my perspective, personally, guys, I didn't like Walmart land very much, but they are being visited by players. Players are actually within, you can see here that I'm not the only one there. So they're actually going around and having these experiences in a branded environment. So think about the value that this carries for your brand. This is actually another example from Roblox. Not only they have these branded virtual experiences, but they also have actual kind of billboard interactive advertising within these platforms. So this is an advertising by Van's World where you can get in and get transported into Van's World, right? So this is also an amazing example of metaverse advertising. But everything that I said doesn't mean that we should leave the sandbox and the central end behind. Many big companies have actually bought their spaces in these platforms, such as HSBC, Atari, Ubisoft, Netflix, and Samsung, right? But are the experiences there any good though? I'll leave that up to you to do your own research, but the feedback in general was not so positive. Not to mention the blockchain NFT aspect of it made these experiences not very, these spaces not very democratized, right? So if you look at the central land and the sandbox, you need to buy virtual land, for example, in order for you to get in and have these experiences, right? And have the full experience, let's say. So it's kind of like a gated experience, right? Which I personally don't believe is that great. Rather, if you compare it with Roblox and Fortnite, you don't need to buy anything if you have to want to have the full experience, right? So that's basically it, you guys. Nobody wants advertising. People want what interests them, and sometimes that's an ad. That's also a quote from another legendary copywriter, which is Howard Locke-Gostage. And I think it really illustrates really, really well the point that I'm trying to make here. Nobody, the reality is nobody wants advertising, but they want the experiences that these ads can bring to them, right? They want the stuff that the ad is about, right? The actual experiences. And as I said, sometimes that's going to be an ad, right? So that's the mindset that you should use in order to get into the metaverse. So if you guys would like more information, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm very active there. I post every day about metaverse advertising, about the new stuff that is coming up in that topic. So please feel free to follow me. Please feel free to connect with me. And if you have any questions, feel free to send any questions there. I also have the podcast Metavertising, which is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, you name it. I'm probably there. And we've had amazing episodes so far with amazing guests from all over the world about metaverse advertising. And if you need any services as well, please feel free to get in touch with my agency. It's called Augmentric, and you can see the website there. Feel free to get in there and book a call directly with me. And I would love to analyze whatever you need, see what you guys are looking for, and make that into a reality. Okay? So that's basically it, you guys. Thank you very much for being here with me today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to send it. I have the chat here open. And yeah, that's basically it. Let's see if there's any questions already. But yeah, feel free to ask them. All right. Okay, so I'm not sure if there are any questions. I'm looking here at the chat and then the Q&A, but I don't see any questions. So I think we're gonna wrap it up. So guys, thank you for being here with me today. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I hope it added value to you guys. And if you have any other questions, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and you can ask them there. And I would love to break it down to you guys to answer your questions. Okay. So I think that's basically it. Thank you once again, you guys, and I'll see you. Thank you.